Hello everybody, back here with a GOAT format deck profile, this time with a Christmas theme. Unfortunately, Santa Claus and other Santa cards are not legal in GOAT format, and in modern day Yu-Gi-Oh! They're really bad, so I decided to go with something instead in the spirit of Christmas, which would be a Greed Burn deck, centered around this trap card Greed that inflicts 500 damage to your opponent during the end phase for each card drawn by a card effect. It also deals the damage to you, and unfortunately, you can end up suiciding yourself. But that's why you have to remember it's better to give to receive. You start off deck profile with 3 Bistro Butcher, who in this deck act as Santa Claus. When he inflicts damage, your opponent draws 2 cards. Normally very bad, but in this deck it's the largest enabler, pretty much. Then you have 3 Cat of Ill Omen. You could think of these as the reindeer for your sleigh. They help you get to where you're going. When it's flipped, add a trap from your deck to the top of your deck, or if you have Necrovalley, add it to your hand, which we are running Necrovalley in this deck alongside Terraforming, both to make the cards your opponent are drawing useless in a lot of cases, and also because this is the North Pole during global warming, and running 2 Terraforming alongside that. Then we have the Elves, Santa's Helpers, Hiro's Shadow Scout. Opponent draws 3 cards when it's flipped, and they have to discard any spell cards. Helps to prevent them from getting the Heavy Storm and Mythical Space Typhoon they need. A lot of people play a ton of spells, so in the end, they'll end up quote-unquote drawing 3, but only end up with like 1 or 2 cards at most. Then we have Des Koala here. Your opponent's going to have a huge hand, so this is going to do a whole bunch of damage. You could think of this guy as the Abominable Snowman, running 2 of him. Then we have Morphing Jar, one of the other big cards in this deck. Discard their hand, then draw 5. This is one of the ways you can end up suiciding with this deck, because you end up drawing 5/2, and Greed during the end phase will do 2,500 to both players from that. Then we have Sangan. You could think of him as Rudolph for this deck, because he gets us to where we need to go. He guides us to the rest of the deck. And then we have the Dentist Elf here, Sasuke Samurai number 3. When it inflicts battle damage to your opponent draws until they have 7 cards in their hand. Sometimes this might actually only end up drawing them like 1 or 2 cards, because their hand's going to be so full in this deck, or against this deck. But also it's hard to get in with this, considering it only has 1,000 attack. But when its effect does go off, it can be pretty devastating for the opponent, for what it's worth. For spell cards, of course, we're going to run Pot of Greed and Graceful Charity. We don't run Duo, because the opponent's hand is going to be so giant anyway. Duo is going to do pretty much nothing, so it's just a waste of our life points and cards. We have 1 Mythical Space Typhoon, because we do like to get in, but we don't run heavy because we rely so much on Greed and our own traps. We run Cart Destruction, make your opponent get rid of that giant hand. If somehow you were to get off like Sasuke Samurai, had 0 cards in their hand, and then use Card Destruction afterward, that made them draw 14 cards, 14 times 500, pretty huge damage. And then we have Lightning Vortex to help clear the way for our Bistro Butcher and Sasuke Samurai, and get rid of problematic monsters that are running over ours. And again, we have the 3 Necrovalley here for the North Pole. Northern Lights, Swords of Revealing Light, have 1 of to help keep us from getting destroyed by the opponent. We are running 2 Terraforming to help us get the North Pole. 3 Greeds, 2 Disturbance Strategy, kind of like the same thing as Card Destruction. Make them shuffle back in their hand, draw the same number of cards, so you can burn them a whole bunch with Greed. Then we have Judgment of Anubis here. You could put in something like Fake Trap instead of this, but I personally like it. You have to discard a card when a spell card destroy a spell or trap card on the field, negate it, and then you can target one of their monsters and destroy it, and inflict damage to them equal to its attack. It's pretty darn useful if you get off that destruction effect. And you really don't want the opponent to heavy storm you, and they're more than likely going to have it against you, so you could even run more trap negation. We're on one magic cylinder because this is a deck based entirely around burn damage for the most part. Mirror Force, obviously don't want the opponent to have the huge monsters. Again, clear the way for Sasuke Samurai. Bistro Butcher, Ring of Destruction, obvious reasons. Secret Barrel, because the opponent's going to have a huge hand and probably going to be able to swarm the field, so it's going to do a buttload of damage to them. I ended up doing 2,400 damage with each of these one time. And we have one Torrential Tribute here, you know why. And then we have God here, or Jesus in this case. He's going to protect the sanctity of Christmas. Side deck isn't really a side deck, just some of the options that you could run here too. Use a Royal Tribute to help get rid of a bunch of the monsters that they end up drawing, because this deck makes them draw so many cards. You're playing Necrovalley anyway, so that is a possible strategy. Messenger of Peace to help stall, but again, you have your own beaters, so it's up to you. Some people run Appropriate in this deck, but Appropriate is such an annoying card because they have to draw first before you can activate it, and then after that, every time they draw with card effects, you get to draw 2, and then it ends up doing 1,000 damage to you too because of greed. So it's up to you if you want to run that or not. Heavy Slump is another card. The opponent has 8 or more cards in their hand. They shuffle it in, draw 2 cards. It's a good way to get rid of the advantage, but then your cards in the deck that rely on your opponent having a huge hand are going to be worth less. But I did have this main deck for a while, and it did work sometimes. And if you do run Appropriate, you kind of have to run cards like Drag Down into the Grave to force the opponent to draw, so you could even use Appropriate in the first place, because you can't use it in the damage step either, so it doesn't work with Morphing Jar or how Shadow Scout makes you get to flip them. The extra deck is just, or fusion deck is just a bunch of random stuff because you don't use the fusion monsters. And that's deck profile. Let me know what you guys think. I know there's a lot of different ways to build this, but I thought that the Necrovalley and Cat of Ill Omen to search out greed was a cool way to do it. And I think it stayed on theme. Hope everyone has a happy holiday and take care.